Right now, the World Cup is kicking off. The biggest sporting event in human history, this time with 48 teams, 3 host countries, and a tournament that exists for exactly one reason: to bring the entire planet into the same room for a month. But Donald Trump doesn't get that, because we are breaking up with our friends left and right. And by the way, for the soccer nerds, stick around, because once I get through all this important political stuff, I'll give you my actual analysis of the tournament games, who I like, who I don't, and where the U.S. will end their run. But first, let's get to the real important stuff, which is that our host-in-chief, the United States, looked at the 2 countries that are throwing this big party with us, our 2 biggest neighbors, our 2 co-hosts, and picked this week to blow up our trade deal with both of them. On Wednesday in the Oval Office, Donald Trump says that he is not looking to renew the USMCA, the trade deal with Canada and Mexico. It's the deal that Donald Trump negotiated, the deal that Donald Trump signed, the deal that Donald Trump called the greatest trade deal ever made because he made it. Now he's saying he doesn't know that he's going to renew it. And the part that Donald Trump loves best about the trade deal, quote, "It was a great deal for one reason: it gave the right to terminate."
USMCA did one thing that I loved. After 6 years, it comes up for renewal. I don't know that I'm going to renew it because, to be honest with you, the United States does much better. Hey, we don't need anything that Canada has. We don't need anything that Mexico has, but they need everything that we have. And they have to treat us better. You know, with Mexico and Canada, we have trade deficits. We should have surpluses with them. We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything that they have. So the primary thing that I got, it was a much better deal than NAFTA. Much, much better. It was sort of a good deal. But it was a great deal for one reason. It gave the right to terminate. And who would have thought that I was, they just didn't want to have it during the 4-year period when I was president.
The idiocy is filling the room. And the tariff sheriff negotiated a marriage, essentially, and his favorite clause here is the divorce, which frankly sounds about right for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump says that Canada and Mexico have taken advantage of us and that we don't need anything from them. Yet here they are co-hosting our party and cleaning up the mess that we are leaving at each of their borders. And we've seen this movie before from Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's entire political origin story came from making Mexico the villain. Build the wall. Mexico will pay for it. Remember that? Whole arenas were chanting it. And 10 years later, the wall is mostly fence repairs. Mexico's paid for none of it. You did. And now Donald Trump is tearing up his own trade deal while Mexico co-hosts the World Cup with us. And the part that is genuinely enraging and not just stupid, on Canada's part, they formally asked on June 1st for a full 16-year renewal of the deal, because the deal shields about 90% of Canada's exports and about $1.3 trillion in trade from Donald Trump's tariff tantrums. Canada came to the table and said, let's have stability. Yet Donald Trump acts like a petulant child. And I have told you, while Donald Trump's doing all of this, Canada's busy winning, because they have spent the last several months doing what any sane country does when their best friend starts swinging at strangers. They make new friends. They're deepening their deals with Europe, with the UK, across the Pacific. Canada is out there signing actual agreements, while Donald Trump's deals are nothing more than press conferences and Truth Social posts that evaporate by the weekend. Our allies, our closest allies, are diversifying away from us like we're a bad stock, which frankly, we pretty much are. And the proof that this is working, a new survey out this week found that only 1 in 10 Europeans still considers the United States an ally. 1 in 10. We used to lead the free world. Now we have the same opinion of us like a gas station sushi roll. And right now, the World Cup, the games are supposed to be bringing people together. That's the whole point. That's the whole sales pitch of the World Cup. And instead, we are effing everyone over that's in attendance. And if you look at the games, the empty seats are the proof. The Financial Times did an analysis showing that nearly 180,000 unsold tickets are sitting on FIFA's resale portals at kickoff time. Prices have crashed 20% and scalpers are panicking. And this is such a disaster that the ACLU, seriously, this is a real thing, the ACLU published an official Know Your Rights guide, a website for attending the World Cup. Because immigration enforcement around these stadiums is a real enough threat that civil rights attorneys wrote the fans a survival website. The official slogan is America welcomes the world, and you are being welcomed by being reminded that you have a right to remain silent. And by the way, an update on one story attached to the World Cup. Omar Artan, the Somali referee, named the best referee in all of Africa. He had a valid visa, a diplomatic passport, and he flew in to make history as the first Somali official ever at a World Cup. He got 11 hours of interrogation at the Miami airport and then a plane ride home. And now, conveniently, an anonymous administration official claims that he has, quote, association with suspected members of terror organizations. Yet there's no evidence, no charges, no arrests. Because if you have a terrorist in your custody, don't you do something about it? Well, the internet, the entire internet, immediately pointed all of that out. Because that is what you would do to an actual terror suspect. You don't just gently deport them to Turkey. Andrew Giuliani, Rudy's kid, who's running the World Cup task force, says there was a very good reason. But he declined to share that reason. But I'm asking you to not get lost in the smear campaign because it's just distraction. There is a pattern here. Allies, guests, officials, fans, country co-hosts, Donald Trump is turning his back on every single one of them at the exact moment the world is showing up at our door holding a casserole. Remember, when Donald Trump was asked how the trade war with our co-hosts would affect the tournament, Donald Trump actually said, tension's a good thing. I think it makes it much more exciting. We are hosting the World Cup and keeping it exciting by essentially keying our neighbors' cars. And no, FIFA and Trump, they're not going to get my eyeballs. I'm not going to watch a minute of it. But I never said I wasn't going to score watch and follow the action like a maniac. So if you are a soccer nerd, I told you I was going to give you where I actually stand, and you're welcome. Roast me in the comments for this, because it's a little bit of chalk picks here. Spain, they're the favorites, and they deserve to be. Yamal, Pedri, Rodri, they're ridiculous. David Raya, who I genuinely believe is the best goalkeeper on the planet, just won his third straight Premier League Golden Glove. They're fantastic. I like England, but there is a mismatch on their team. The young talent on their team is absurd and pure, but they look absolutely lost when they're playing together. When you compare that to their experienced guys that know how to play the game on an international level, they can be flat out outrun. And tournaments like this will eventually find your slowest legs. France, they may have the deepest squad in the entire field. They could pretty much send their entire B team and get through the quarterfinals. And I love Saliba, William Saliba. He's my guy, calmest defender on the planet. Watch him absolutely negate people on the pitch. And for the U.S., after those disastrous friendlies, the Senegal match showed us that, you know what, we actually have a pretty organized team. And we are in a group that's genuinely soft. Paraguay, Australia, Turkey. The U.S. should come out on top. And then ultimately, I think Americans, we're going to end up in the round of 16. But when I looked at this, when I started gaming it out, I saw something ridiculous. Because we have a 48-team field, we now have a round of 32. And if you look at the bracket lines, the U.S. could draw, of all nations on this earth, Iran in the round of 32 while we are actively bombing them, which would be the most watched and most radioactive soccer game ever played in this country. And if we survive that, we'll move on to the round of 16, and that's where we will likely run into a wall named Argentina, the defending champs. So my honest forecast, round of 16, and then a heavyweight shows us that we are still not close enough. But my final pick, I'm saying it, it's coming home. England will beat Spain in the final. And I could have put the Netherlands there as a surprise, moving further, but once I saw that Jurrien Timber's out, I just don't see the Dutch getting that far. So my picks on the table, England over Spain in the final. Comment yours below and tell me where I am wrong about England. And then subscribe so that we can all argue about this tournament all month long without giving FIFA a single view, and maybe we have a little bit of distraction from the world Donald Trump is ruining.